Hi everyone, today I am on the show with a very important person as usual. This person has done very well for herself. She's one of the, for me, global assets in terms of international education and advocacy. And for the past 2 decades, she has achieved a lot for herself. And today she's working towards becoming an educational consultant. Is that
correct? Yes.
Yeah. So, and her name is Annabel Rodríguez. She's from Latin America, El Salvador, right?
Yes, El Salvador.
So I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
I know this is not the first time of you having a conversation with people like us, and that's what you do.
Yes, I love talking to people that are from different countries. You learn a lot.
That's nice. First and foremost, you bring such a rich and inspiring background, and as an intentional educator and advocate, you have spent like over 2 decades, that is over 20 years, creating inclusive educational learning environments and empowering language learners and young leaders across Latin America and United States. And can you tell me what actually motivated you into coming into this field from the first?
Well, when I was in El Salvador, I was always geared towards inclusivity and inclusion because when I started working, I had students with special needs, and I noticed how we were not really trained to support the students who were different in that way. Then when I became an international student here in the United States, I realized that sometimes we are put in a box. The education is set to be the same for everybody, but we all come from different backgrounds, different language levels, different experiences. Because, for example, I started working when I was 18 and I was working with preschool students. And then I worked at the university, and I have a very rich background in teaching that maybe other students who were just through the path of being an undergrad and a graduate from the United States, maybe they hadn't had that experience of teaching. So as a student and as an educator, identifying a student's needs and identifying that the backgrounds count, that's very important. And that's why I became an advocate, because there were needs. Like, for example, in the United States, K-12 students, they use the Common Core standards. And that is something that I didn't know, because in El Salvador, we don't use those standards. We have our own objectives and parameters, but it's different internationally. And sometimes teachers were not aware that there was this gap in the knowledge. So for me, it was very interesting to help bridge that gap. And also with international students being away from their homes and then being here and not understanding the culture, sometimes it's very hard to access resources or access experiences if you don't know how to integrate to the community. So those were some of the things that I worked on how to identify what were my gaps or what were things that I needed to learn in order to be better in my classes, but also what my contribution was, because I had different experiences and knowledges that were enriching for my classmates who didn't know about how to teach, for example, first generation students.
That's interesting. You said you started teaching at 18.
Yes.
And since then you have been teaching, right?
Yes, I have taught preschool students, K-12 students, university students, students from masters. I have taught English education classes, and also I have taught Spanish here in the US.
So what has kept you committed over these years?
Teaching. I love teaching. And this is very hard because teaching is not very well paid. So many educators, after 5 years, they leave the profession. But something that made me fall in love with teaching and drives me to continue in the field is the aha moments. Like when you're teaching someone and they are confused and they don't understand something, and then you make it in a way that they get it and they open their eyes and they are like, so teacher, this is this. That moment is the most rewarding moment. When someone doesn't know something and then thanks to the support you provide, they learn something. And that is something that I try with my students to help them become more independent and to identify the skills that help them learn.
Wow. So as an international student teacher, what approach do you actually employ in multicultural classroom setting?
Something that I noticed when I was a student is that there is sometimes we as international students we self-isolate. Like we go to environments and it's like I don't see anyone similar to me, and we do see some groupings, so we isolate ourselves and we stop attending different environments. So something that I do in my classroom, for example, is that I work a lot with cooperative learning, and I start like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, number ones together, number twos together, because you need to interact with people in order to start creating friendships with those people. But the problem is that no one is courageous enough to take the first step. So in my case, I was able to make a lot of friends, and I have a community here that I come back as Network of Nations and friends that became family. And it is because I made the first step and I decided to approach them and talk to people and build the relationship. But many international students don't really know how to navigate, because when you're an adult, it's hard to make new friends. Because usually your friends are the ones you work together, or you grew up with these people, or your family, your cousins are your friends. But how do you make friends in a different environment? And as an educator, I create that environment that you have to work with everybody. And then I can see that mid-semester, my group is always very, like they support each other. I love to call it communities of learning. And sometimes when they are in groups, and this is very interesting with American students, when I create the groups, they ask me like, teacher, are we competing? I'm like, no, you're not competing, you're collaborating. And they have tasks and they have to complete them, and they can help each other even if they are from different groups, because the idea is that everybody has to be able to finish what I have designed for that lesson. So having collaborative work, allowing them to talk to each other, and usually what I do is that we fight against time. So I said, you have 1 minute for this, and so they forget about like, I know this person, I don't know this person, like it's like I have 1 minute to do this, and then you start like writing answers, and that really helps because then once they break the ice, it's easier to come back and create relationships.
Wow, interesting. You have worked on curriculum design,
yes,
and leadership, and it seems like, based on my understanding of this area of expertise, we are the one to actually create the strategies for teachers to actually employ in their teaching, right?
Yes.
How do you ensure through your drafting of strategies, ensure that teachers are able to create an inclusive environment for their students?
First, everything is research-based. So I use things that have been already proven by research, and methodologies that are already established. It's not really that I am reinventing the wheel, but I use different resources and I apply them to my classrooms. And then based on that, I can also teach the professors. For example, during the pandemic, I had taught online classes that were not synchronous lessons. So like the way that online classes worked in the past, or distance learning, was that you had some documents, students will read it, they will post on the forum, but you didn't have like this live version of lessons that we had during the pandemic. And I was like, I am telling the teachers to do this, but I haven't done it. So I started teaching a class, and I worked for a university, and it was a language class, but they said, oh, we closed some groups and we have 60 students in this class. And I was like, how do I teach 60 students in a communicative class? it was English for tourism. So I created groups. I said, we're gonna have 10 groups, 6 people in each group. They already knew they created the groups. And then every time we had an activity, I was like, group number 1, group number 2, group number 3. So I made sure that everybody had a chance to speak. And then I was deleting each of every person who participated, I will delete it from the list. So then everybody had to speak at least once. I had a lot of breakout rooms, so I would be like, okay, find the most expensive hotel in this area. And they will go during the breakout room and find the most expensive hotel, and then they will come back and they will share it with the class. And there were different activities where they were engaged. So based on that experience and the strategies that I implemented, I was more comfortable sharing with the teachers that were struggling during the pandemic, because most of the students didn't have their cameras on, most of the students were not participating. But it is hard when everybody's off as someone volunteers. So I had the chat and I would be like, okay, everybody, question number 1. And everybody was like, A, B, A. So you could see that they were paying attention. Yeah, but opening your microphone and speaking and knowing that everything was recorded, it was very scary for the students. Or I had other tools like Mentimeter or Google Forms. So I would be like, okay, 5 minutes, complete this. And they will complete it and I could check their progress. So during the pandemic, my students, they were very engaged and they were very happy with my classes. And I felt very proud because based on that experience, I was also able to advise other teachers.
Wow.
And you have to walk the talk. Because sometimes some people talk a lot, like, oh, do this, do that, but they don't do it. So I like to walk the talk, so I make sure that, okay, this works. It worked for me. Let me see how it can help other teachers.
Okay. My notion of a curriculum designer and leadership coach, like in educational field, is that they do not teach. They teach teachers. But in your own case, it seems like you do both. You teach and as well help teachers, guide teachers on how to teach it.
The thing is that, and this is the problem why some curriculum doesn't work. Because if you are not in the field and you're not teaching, then you are disconnected from the reality. Like the kids now are speaking another language and this and that. But if you are here at your desk in an office and you don't interact with the students, you don't really know how they are behaving. And when you create curriculum, you create it from this idea that you had a curriculum, but not on the students' needs. Like, for example, students are very technological. They know how to use TikTok, Instagram, but they don't know how to use Excel. So you sometimes ask the students, okay, write a paper, a collaborative paper, but they don't know how to use Word or Google Docs, and everybody typing. So they are technological in a sense, because they are able to access information, use ChatGPT, but then there are tools that they don't know. But if you assume that they just know technology, then students get frustrated, because sometimes teachers are like, create sheets or create a document, and there are other tools that maybe they don't know how to use. So understanding your students is important. And one of the ways that I do in order to understand current students is that I teach. So I am still in the classroom. The longer you are away from the classroom, the more disconnected you are from the reality, and it makes your curriculum not the best.
Wow. Now, you have taught in 2 different contexts, in 2 different countries. I think more than that, but you have taught in El Salvador and in the United States. So based on your teaching experience, is there any overlapping area where you think like this country should learn from this and this country should learn from the other country?
I think that teaching in the 2 different contexts was challenging in different ways. Like, for example, when you are teaching in a Latino context, like with students from Latin America, people are more social. Like, for example, if you enter to the classroom, everybody's speaking, everybody's standing, and then they sit down and they follow the instructions. Like, you need to have good classroom management. And but there are always going to be people talking, and there are going to be always, like, if you say, okay, work in pairs, work in groups, they talk to each other. Something that I noticed in the United States is that you will enter the classroom and it was quiet and everybody was on their phones. And then, like, even though phones are not allowed, I will allow them for research. Like, if they didn't know a word, they could Google it or something, or ask ChatGPT. In El Salvador or in Latin America, they are not with their cell phone. Like, it's not that they are not.
It's not that common for
like, they do have we do have cell phones and everything, but there is this kind of I am in class, I shouldn't be checking my phone. But with American students, they have grown up so much with screens that you're in the classroom, and sometimes the students, they will just take out their cell phones, check their email, and then I will look at them and do like, hey, and they will be, oh, sorry, I forgot. Because it's like, it's just like, it comes naturally. So the phones were a challenge here in the US, even though I would be like, it's only used for resources, but yeah, there is an issue with the screens. And it was funny because during the break in Latin America, students will go out, but in the US, the students will stay. And one of my students said, screen time, and they took out their phone and they started texting, and I was like, you need some sunlight, go out, talk to people. But it was a different dynamic. So also breaking the ice was harder, because they were like, teacher, are we gonna be with this group the whole semester? And I was like, no, we're gonna change it tomorrow. And because they didn't know that these groups were just like for this class, and then the next class they were gonna be working with other people, because that was my idea. They were gonna be working with everybody. So the socialization of each of the types of students, it was different. Also, something that I think, I am a first generation student, so coming from Latin America and from very low resources, like, I am very resourceful. So like, whatever I have, I can make it something for classes. And sometimes the students, I thought they knew more technology than what they really knew. Like, I would say, okay, this is the Google Drive, upload your video. And they were like, how do we upload a video on Google Drive? I was like, I thought that was simple. So I had to explain different things, like how to do things. Because in Latin America, I will be very A, B, C, D. Because I know they don't have the resources and they don't really know how to use them. So I will explain it more and have tutorials or things like that. In the US, I thought they knew more. And then like, they would struggle like with Google Drive, or like downloading some things and using them in their cell phones. So I had to have the QRs and like click here, click there, and do these. So it wasn't so, it didn't flow that naturally as I expected, but it is because they use the screens more like for entertainment.
So it seems like here in the US, one of the biggest problems among pupils and students is the usage of cell phone, and
it is very distracting for them.
Yeah. Do you think there is a way this issue can be addressed, whereby those students can now use the phone as at when due, not all the time, especially it will not serve as a source of distraction, rather it will be used only as a source of learning? Do you think there is any strategy or any policy that you think in mind that can be implemented for such?
Well, something that I did is that when they were always on task, like I had different activities and they had to explain something to a classmate, or they had to write something, like there was fewer use of phones, They knew that the phone was only used for as a resource in case they needed to find a word in Spanish or they needed some background information on some topic. There were some incidents when they would look at this text or text something, but in general, it was very, like, the students that I've had, they were really interested in learning the language. So once I will be like, hey, or I will be like, I'm watching you, they will be like, oh yeah. And they realize like, oh no, I shouldn't be using my phone. They need to be aware that they shouldn't be doing it in the classroom. They shouldn't be distracted from their lesson. But I will monitor. I was always watching. I was always helping and making sure that they were being used correctly. So it worked. It worked out well.
Wow. Now, it seems like in your classroom management and teaching experience so far, you try to integrate technology
Yes, I
into it. And I know you have worked both in a developed context and underdeveloped context. That is less likely to, maybe, I don't know about your home country, but it seems like the level of technological advancement is not as it is here in the United States. But how have you been able to innovatively try to salvage the situation in order to enhance classroom management and your teaching experience?
Well, in El Salvador, all of the students have cell phones. So something that I always try to use is, what are they using now that I can use it in the classroom? And for example, some of the activities that I had for my students in El Salvador was make a TikTok. And in 30 seconds, explain this topic. So they had to be able to summarize the content. They had to have a topic sentence, supporting ideas, concluding sentence, and they had to be able to speak it in a fluent way in 30 seconds. So using what they know and what they like in the classes and the technology that they know how it works, then that's useful. And also, for example, ChatGPT. I use a lot ChatGPT, and for example, I had some students who were working in this TOEFL preparation course. I asked them, ask ChatGPT to give you questions, and then ChatGPT was asking them questions, and then there was one student who failed one of the questions in the practice test, and she asked me, teacher, what is the answer for this? And I said, ask ChatGPT. She smiled, and then she asked ChatGPT. And ChatGPT gave a very technical answer, and then she asked in a simple way. And then ChatGPT rephrased everything in a way that it was clearer for the student. And then because I was monitoring, then when I got back, she was like, teacher, now I know. It is because this, and then she explained it to me. So many educators are afraid of ChatGPT. But the thing is that ChatGPT is not going to take our jobs. The people who know how to use ChatGPT is going to take our jobs. And students...
ChatGPT will not take your job, but the people who know how to use the ChatGPT will take your jobs.
Yes.
Kind of powerful quotes.
Yes, I heard it somewhere. It's not mine, don't quote me, but yeah. And I loved it, because sometimes people are afraid of the technology, but you always need the human. But if you're not teaching the students how to use ChatGPT ethically, if you're not giving them good practices, then the students don't know how to use it, and they are just copy-pasting. So, for example, my students, they created a paragraph, and they typed it into ChatGPT, and as ChatGPT, I gave them the prompt to know what level of English they had and what were some areas of improvement. So ChatGPT gave them the feedback. ChatGPT didn't give them a new version, just the feedback. So my students had to rewrite their paragraphs, submit it again, and get a higher level. So while doing that, one of my students said like, teacher, I spent 3 hours doing this. And then she asked, can I ask ChatGPT to do it? And I said, try. And she typed ChatGPT, write a paragraph, B1 level, and submitted it. And ChatGPT wrote the paragraph in 5 seconds. And she was like, teacher, I spent 3 hours. And I said, copy paste. And she copied the paragraph, pasted it, and entered. And I said, ask ChatGPT, did you write this? And she wrote it down. And then ChatGPT said, yes, I did. So I told her, if you use ChatGPT is not gonna lie for you. I'm gonna know that you cheated. And she was like, but because I know how to use the tools. And as educators, we need to know how to use ChatGPT, artificial intelligence to support our students, teach them in an ethical way how to use them.
Okay, what are the simple ethical strategies you have employed in while using AI, artificial intelligence?
Well, AI for me, it helps a lot for feedback. Because, for example, I am one person. And if I have 20 students and I have to read 20 essays, the last 10 are not getting as much feedback as I would like to, because I'm gonna be tired already. But if I have ChatGPT will give the same type and the same level of depth on feedback. So for assessment is good. Also for there are some apps that I have used for speaking. So my students speak to the app, and then it gives them the report: mispronunciation, grammar mistakes, level of vocabulary, things that I cannot really do. Because if I have 20, 30 students, then they are too many to rate them at that level. And the more feedback you provide, the better they get. And unfortunately, sometimes teachers are like, oh, just continue studying, practice more. But what do I have to practice? But when you have tools like ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, it gives you exactly where to focus, and then students can be better.
Wow, interesting. Okay, now that you seems like you are a kind of an advocate of artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah, I love it.
So what certificate or what training are you currently doing, or what plan do you have towards gaining more competence in the application of artificial intelligence in your job?
Well, the way to become more proficient with artificial intelligence is to use artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So I do have ChatGPT downloaded. I use it as much as I need to. I explore tools that can be beneficial for my students, but also like Google has some certifications, and Google has some trainings that include the use of AI in teaching. And also I'm trying to learn some programming language that will help me be better at prompting. And those are some things that I am already doing.
Wow, interesting. And one of the things I noticed and I read from your profile is that you have a very deep passion, and I saw some of your activities for the girl child education.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what have you done in the past to actually reflect your passion for girl child education?
Well, being a woman in a third world country is not easy. And many students, there is a lot of teen pregnancy, and many students don't finish their school. Like when I was in 8th grade, one of my students, she was 15 and she got pregnant and she stopped studying. So the more you keep students in education, the more you delay teen pregnancy, and the better resources they have to provide for a family and to raise children. Their children are healthier and they are better educated. So one of the things that I try to do is to have inclusive classrooms where girls feel included and they are heard, and they can feel that they can give their best in the classrooms. But in addition to that, I have spoken to girls in schools. I have created workshops where I talk about the advantages of education, and also I use my own story, because I studied in public education. The university I attended in El Salvador was a public school. My mom, she didn't get a diploma. She studied up to high school. My grandma didn't know how to read and write. So my grandma didn't know how to read and write. My mom studied until high school, and now I am here with 2 masters. And I have been able to travel around the world. I know people from many countries, and I have a very rich experiences. I have rich experiences in the academic field, but also personal. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without education. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without English. So that is something that I promote, especially for girls, that they learn English and they continue in their schools. And sometimes, and this is something that I've shared, like sometimes when you're here, this is all you see.
That's true.
And if you don't know there is something better, you're like, I am stuck here. Like girls can say, like, my mom was a teen mom and my grandma was a teen mom, and I am going to be a teen mom until they see something different. And then when they get a glimpse of what's out there and what education can help them achieve, then it is more likely that they continue in education and they have better lives. Because if they don't have education, it's harder for them to find a job. And if they don't have a job, they might depend from a man, and then these men can be violent and they can be in abusive environments, and they cannot get out because they cannot find a job. So it's a circle of violence that can be broken with education.
I agree. So now, considering that you have studied in a different, like El Salvador and here in the United States, is there any suggestion or a policy direction you think institutions should consider in order to better support girls who are from low-income background and as well immigrants, especially here in the United States?
I do think that there should be more support for international students in general. Unfortunately, the international student offices are more like administration offices. They put a stamp on the paper, and that's mostly what the work is about. When the international exchange experience should be richer, should be something where you can really embrace the community and be part of it. Because if you're going to be isolated, then you could have stayed home and studied your course online. But I think that there needs to be more of these enhancement of the international experience. And I think that women in specific, they do need more support, because not only in the US when they are in the program, but also when they get back. Because what happens is that I was in El Salvador and I was part of the culture and I understood that culture. But then you come here and I gained advocacy skills. Like, thanks to my program in the United States, and thanks to the Fulbright, because I was here the first time as a Fulbrighter, I had a voice. And then when I got back, it's hard for women to fit in the structure again, because now you have a voice and you're not gonna tolerate discrimination, and you know that you have value and that you can achieve higher. And when you're in a culture where there are not too many female leaders and that the system wants you to be submissive, there is a clash and there is a reverse culture shock. So I do think that institutions should be working with female students to help them to develop their voice, but also the network they need, so when they go back, they are able to do great things, and not to go back and submit to the culture they came out of.
Wow, interesting. So, did you find it very difficult to fit in the first time you came to the United States after your graduation when you went back home?
Yes. Yeah, it is always different. Like, and also, like, when I came here to the US, it was hard because I was actually expecting more support from the university, and I didn't get it. And I wanted to make friends and create a community, more like the TV shows. And it wasn't like that. But then there is something that is called anthropology. So I kind of did my research. So I started looking at people and how they interacted. And the thing is that I was interacting in my way and they are interacting in their way, so we couldn't find like the common ground. But for example, with some most American people, it's not like Latinos, because here, like someone is speaking Spanish and you're like, where are you from? Honduras, and I'm from El Salvador. We're friends now. and I guess this is the same with people from your country. Like you find people from the same continent on the language.
Excited.
You're excited, and now you're friends for life.
Yeah.
But then you try to do that with Americans, and they don't even hug or things because they have the space bubble, and you need to understand the cultural differences. I started understanding those, and for example, they need to see you often in order to be able to break the ice. It doesn't happen the first time. So I was like, hello, and then hello, and then hello, how are you doing? And then hello, how was your weekend? And then little by little, people started opening up to me, and I created good friendships. I still go and talk to friends and hang out with them, and I love them to death, and they love me too. So you can create these lasting friendships with people in the US, but it is important that you understand how the culture works.
Yeah.
It's not to impose your culture, but find this common ground where you can create the relationship and nurture the relationships.
Wow. Now, going forward and looking ahead, and considering your expertise, is there any initiative you are looking at launching that would combine your skill in leadership, advocacy, and curriculum development, right?
Yes. Well, currently, I'm going to go back to El Salvador, and my idea is to start a consulting company on curriculum and language learning, teaching, tutoring Spanish or English, helping with curriculum development, like especially universities that are updating the programs, and continue working with AI and other language programming, language consultancy. But something that I would really love in the future is to have a shelter, a women's shelter. Like here in DeKalb, there is a safe passage, and it is a place where women can stay when there is domestic violence. So if women are being physically or psychologically abused in their houses, by their partners, they have a place where to go. And
you want to do it in El Salvador?
I would really love to do that in El Salvador, because unfortunately it's an underdeveloped country, and it is a poor country. Women, sometimes they are being abused by their partners in their marriages, and they don't have a place to go, so they stay. Sometimes people are like, oh, but she stayed. She didn't have a place to go.
Wow.
So I would like to create that, and something that I think will be helpful is to learn English and other skills so they can work like remotely, or so. I have different ideas on how to.
Okay. At what age in El Salvador does the women get married, the girls? At what age?
Well, it will depend, but usually low-income women before 18, they are already married. If they are low income, because it's the thing that they stop studying, they start working, and then it's just like the next step is to be a mom. But when you have education, you start thinking about other things. Like you have an undergrad, then you want a master's, and then you have a master's, you want a PhD, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to have your own financial assets. But when you don't have anything, it's like they don't really know what else to do with their lives.
So do your government back home encourage women education?
I'm sorry,
do government back home in El Salvador, do they encourage women education, girls education?
We have schools that are for boys and girls, so there's no ban on education for girls. I don't know how
Is there
encouraged.
incentive for girls to go to school? Like
I don't.
like scholarship, opportunity, grants?
There are scholarships and there are opportunities for everybody. So not specifically for girls, but there are resources for everybody. Unfortunately, my country was in. We had an issue with gangs and violence. So many women had to leave school because they were afraid of the violence. Right now we are in a period of more peace and prosperity in a way. So many women are going back to the schools. But yeah, there is a period where women didn't really attend classes because it was getting too dangerous to be in the school.
Okay, does being educated as a lady attract the best of men as a spouse for you? Like,
I am still single. I am one of the most educated women that I know, and I am still single, and it is because of the thinking. Because when men don't have the international experience, or when men are not educated, what they want is a housewife. And I do know that I have a mission.
yes.
And if my mission is between a marriage and me, I choose a mission because I know that I can impact more people. And I know that for some men, they are very jealous in that way because they would like to be the center of a woman's life. And when a woman has education and has other goals, sometimes
It conflicts.
There's a conflict there. So the ideal is for men to step up and to also have a mission and to get together with the mission. So like someone who is really into women empowerment or just social empowerment, and me, and then we find the way. But it's hard to find someone who is like as stubborn as me, trying to get a problem that is a social problem that we have and to get it fixed. Most of the people, they just give up on things and they don't have these, I don't want to say courage, but yes, courage
So
to
you're
try.
single because of your ambitions?
I will say so, because I'm kind and I'm nice. I know how to cook. but I know that I want to do many things. And sometimes
Are you trying to tell me that there are not smart and ambitious men in your home country or here in the US who have? Because I believe, like here in the US, I mean, most men would want to settle down with ambitious women, and there are a lot of smart people. Or you prefer getting married from El Salvador?
Well, like for example, here, I always knew that I was gonna go back. So when I have been here in the US, I was here for 2 years doing my master's, and I was here for 2 years doing my master's at OMIS. What I have been doing is to focus on my master's and the skills that I needed in order to succeed. So maybe I wasn't really looking for a partner because I was more invested on trying to get the skills that I needed when coming back, like for example researcher skills or getting like the radio show that I showed you.
Yeah, I understand like the importance of those skills you are getting, but I think there's a need for a balance. So, and I know you are well, like going. I checked your profile. You are such a smart, a global asset. But are you not seeing like, are you not seeing the need in the nearest future to be settled like with a man?
If the right person comes my way,
I agree.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna be in a relationship because I think I should be in a relationship. Like if I'm gonna be in a relationship, it is because this person is helping me grow, and I'm gonna be helping him grow. I don't wanna be in a relationship where the person feels that he's in a competition. And it has happened in the past that I have dated someone, and for example, I will say, oh, I went to this place, or when I was in the States, and they will be like, oh, I haven't even traveled. And it's like, I'm not bragging and I'm not competing, why do you feel like, why are you defensive? And it has to be with men's self-esteem and confidence. So sometimes when a woman is more educated, it can be intimidating.
Yeah. But are there no highly educated people in El
There
Salvador?
are educated people. There are educated people and they are married. And I'm not gonna date married men.
I understand.
Yeah. So, and the thing is that there is, because men who are highly competitive, who are educated and everything, they can have access to 100% of the women. But the women who are highly educated and who are like have traveled and teaching experience, and we have access to a limited number of men, because in El Salvador most of the men might have a bachelor's degree, but they don't have a master's or they don't have a PhD. So if I have 2 masters now, I am overeducated, which I already have. I am overeducated for them. And that is when men, and especially the macho culture, like the chauvinists, that they feel that they need to be better and bigger and more. When you come and you are already at the same level, they might feel that there is a competition or they are inferior. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to do with me, but it is on the perspective they have. And that's why it's important that men work on this way of deconstructing who they think they should be, because a man shouldn't be violent to be a man, or a man shouldn't be jealous or controlling to have something or to be manly. And this is the reason why many of us, when we were growing up, our parents never hugged us, our fathers, because it's like, I'm not gonna hug my son because people are gonna say something. But it is because that's the old ways. And I think that, and I'm glad that we're moving into a generation that parents are more involved in the raising their children. Like now, parents, they go and they play with the kids, and they do their their daughter's hair, for example. Like I see those videos on TikTok that the father is like doing the ponytail, and it's like, I never saw that growing up, because that was more like the women's role. And I would like more of this new trend and this new generation, that they are more involved in the raising of the kids, and they are men who know how to cook. So if you see, like in El Salvador, men can be educated.
So men don't cook in El Salvador?
Not many. And the thing is that we are behind the United States. We are like a generation behind. So men in El Salvador who are my age, they don't cook, they don't clean, they want a mom.
They want a mom.
And I'm like, I'm working here, like I'm doing my thing, so I need a partner. No, I don't need a child. So, and it's that perspective, and that's why I said that when women go back to their countries, they see here partners. People are working together, people understand like the dynamics, because women here have rights. But then you go back to your countries, and then it's like, oh, good that you have a degree from an American university, but now wash the dishes, do this, do that, and you are a maid. They want you to be a housewife when you already have a voice and want to do more, because you know there are things that you would like to solve. Like there is hunger, there is poverty, there is violence, there is discrimination, and you want to be part of the solution. And it's hard to be part of a solution when you are locked in your house cooking only. So and that's why it is challenging when you go back to your countries. And that's why I say it is very important that the women here, they get networks, because when you go back, it can be very discouraging. It would be like, I have a diploma that I can see while I am washing the dishes. And like if you're here and you had access to all these, like you see, you think big ideas, and you talk to people who have big dreams, and then you go back and you have to wash dishes, cook, and that's your life again.
Do you have problem with washing dishes?
I love washing dishes.
Okay, well, I have some words before we end. I feel like you're an amazing person, and you deserve the best of men.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't want you to give up on your dreams.
Oh, no.
You understand? And regardless of the situations, don't go for a man who is insecure of your person. And make sure that your motives are actually in order. There is always a balance, and there's always a place of compromise.
Yeah.
And if you can get a man you are willing to compromise for, and the man is also willing to compromise for you, don't take such a person for granted. And there are a lot of men who are actually looking for someone like you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
No, and I know, and I am Christian, so that's why I don't rush it, because God's timing is perfect.
God's timing.
Yeah, like if God wanted me married, I will be already married. And I do understand that for some of the things that I have done, like coming here and learning about the culture and everything, God wanted me to experience this by myself.
Yes.
Because other like coworkers, they came here with their husbands, and they didn't really understand the struggle of being an international student because they had a partner. Yeah. So they went to the shopping, they went to the groceries together, they did things together, and they didn't understand how isolating it can be for a single international student. So in my case, I think that going through these experiences as a single person has been very enriching, because I have seen how the system is failing us, providing us support.
True.
So I'm not rushing, because I know God's timing is perfect, and I know that there is some learning from this that I couldn't have gotten other way.
Yes.
So I am very obedient, and if he wants me like this, I'm staying like this as he wants.
I know the plan of God for you is a good plan. And when God created man, I think in the book of Genesis, he asks, one of the things he asks man to do is to multiply. And you cannot multiply without a partner. I believe that it is God's will and desire for you to get married someday, but not to anyhow man. It's somebody that will love you just the way Christ loved the church. Somebody that will care for you, somebody that will enable you grow, somebody that will not be insecure at the pace of your growth, somebody that you can grow together with, somebody that will be a friend to you, somebody that will be a father to you. Regardless of your age, every woman wants her husband to play that father role.
Yeah. Totally.
And someone that can play that friend role, someone that can be the husband, somebody can switch this role.
Yeah, that can wear different hats.
And there's likelihood your husband is somewhere, but he has not developed the character needed for you to marry to you.
He needs a lot of work. That's why that is taking some time.
Maybe having some experience that will shape him at the long run.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to feel like kind of disappointed. For me, you're an amazing person.
I am, and actually, and thanks for bringing this, because I think that many women and many people in society think of singleness as like a curse.
It's not.
And it's not, because it gives me freedom.
Even as a guy, I get pressure from my parents and my childhood friends to take decisions. But I'm a Christian as well, like you. I only marry one person, and that person I have to be very careful. And I also need to actually, even me, sometimes I need to work on myself as well.
We all have.
I understand. So I need somebody that would understand that part of that is, I'm willing to be teachable, and my partner should also be willing to be teachable. And when I'm trying to share, when I'm sharing my concerns, you'll be willing to adjust. Because I'm not sharing that concerns in order to make you feel bad. Rather, I'm trying to make you to be the best of yourself. Understand? So we need some people who are willing to learn with us. People who are willing to
work with us, and not someone you have to drag.
So because when someone listens to you now, maybe from El Salvador, they may be thinking that maybe education is not good because you are not married. No. They will see you get married to the best of men, and I know God will do it for you.
Yeah,
I'm so sure.
And I'm not rushing, and also like in a point of my life, I talked to God and I gave him my life, and I said, do whatever you want. So I believe that he has taken me to places because that's what he wants, and he has. And I've been to dangerous areas and places, and I have been like in communities in El Salvador that were dangerous, and he has always protected me because he has a mission for me, and I think that I am doing that right now. So I do know that some people they feel that their end is marriage and that's the goal for them. I do know that I have been chosen by God for a mission. So if marriage comes, if children come, that's like I would love them. But if not, I do know that I am making a difference in the world, and that's what God sent me here for. So like I'm not a sad person. I'm actually a happy person because God is with me, and wherever I go, I share God with people, and I don't need a husband to do that. So I'm really a happy person, and I really enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy interacting with people like you and other people here that need a word, because we are so far from home. It feels isolating, and many people go into depression. Many people start like doing drugs or alcohol, or just feeling so sad, and some people, they just go back because it's like, I cannot continue here. And if I can be a word of wisdom or support or a caring hand, then that's what I am here for. And I understand that the society has an idea for women, and I know that I'm breaking the stereotype, and I don't mind being different, because why fit in when you're made to stand out? And I know there are many other women that are single, and they are worried that, oh, the clock is ticking, because I'm 41. And some people might think like, oh, the clock is ticking and I'm gonna get older and I'm gonna be lonely. You're not lonely if you have God in your heart. And God, He will always place angels everywhere. And I have talked to Him, and I said, like, if I don't have children, make me the head of an orphanage. There are so many children that don't have love. And we can do as single Christians. Instead of being sad about being single, we should be using this freedom and this time to be helping others, the little ones. Because there are so many children that they don't have parents, and do we go and tell them stories? Do we go and play with these children? There are, like right now, many children are being separated from their parents because of migration policies. And these children, who's gonna support them here? So, like, there are so many things that are broken in the world, that being married is important, but it's not the goal that I am pursuing. I want to make a difference, and I want to be able to be a voice for international students, and to support communities like the Latino community or international.
Well, are you not considering having a certificate in theology? I feel like you'll be a very good Christian missionary.
That's the plan. Like, I know God is working on things.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And wherever I go, I speak about God, and God is with me. So, like, I know He's using me already, and I know He has plans for me.
I'm already blessed by your words. The fact that, despite the fact that, from human perspective, they may see that you're not getting married at 41 as a shortcoming, but you are not sounding desperate. You are happy. You are even more happier than most women who are actually married.
And that's the thing. Like,
yeah. So, like, your life already is a message, and it's a message of consolation.
Thank you.
And thank you once again for honoring my invitation at short notice. I didn't wake up today to actually have this session with you.
This was God's plan.
Yeah, it's just an impromptu. You understand? And I believe that the reason why God wanted us to do this may be because of this message now. Maybe someone will listen to you.
Yeah, because that was not in the...
Yeah, maybe that is...
Marriage was not in the program.
One of the audience here, maybe somebody, so maybe you are desperate, because I can see young women, they are 25, they are 30, the society is putting pressure on you to get married. Well, marriage is a good thing. We are not trying to discard that. Even me, I look forward to getting it one day. But you get it the right way and get the right person. You understand? And sometimes while you are at it, being single is not a cause. It's an opportunity for you to actually develop yourself, develop your character. Sometimes you may not even be good for the person you want to marry. And you need to build yourself for the person you want to marry. You don't build yourself in marriage. You grow in marriage with the foundation you have as a single person. And there are a lot of good people out there like Annabel. They just need a good man. You understand? So if you are here, I hope you are blessed. And if you are blessed by this session, please, when you watch this, make sure you keep comments, like a word of encouragement to her and to us. Thank you for joining us, and thank you once again.
I want to close with something and that someone told me, and I really appreciated that. Sometimes if you're a man, you're looking for a woman. If you're a woman, you're looking for a man. And who you should be looking for is for Christ.
Yeah. Wow.
Because when you look for Christ, then everything will come to your life. What you need.
And that is why they say, seek first the kingdom of God, and every other thing will be added unto you. The Bible says so.
So at this moment, I don't really need a husband, so it is not a need, so God is not providing that.
Yeah.
But God has provided. Like with the financial funding cuts and different things, I have seen the hand of God everywhere in my life. So if you are looking for Christ, He will provide.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited having you today.
I love this. I really love this.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.